All right. Okay. So, as Max mentioned, we are recording the sessions. Why do we record the sessions? Well, we do that for a couple of reasons. One is in case you want to go back and just rehear something. There was something of interest you want to go back to. And second of all, if life, the hectic life we lead, takes the better of you, and you cannot make a session, you can catch up on the recording. I'll give a little content warning. We do show some road crashes here. Nothing overly graphic, but we're just trying to understand factors in road crashes to eliminate them in the future. And so, if that's something that could disturb you, I just want you to be aware of that as we go forward. Over to you, Max. Who are you?
Hello, everyone. My name is Max McCardle. I'm a senior project engineer at Safe System Solutions, and I'm also the program moderator for today. And this is my first attempt at moderating, so please bear with me. I'm sure we can get through this together, though. I will be helping with any of your technical issues that you may be having, and also encouraging everyone to get involved in the chat function. I will be reviewing all those questions that do come in, or any points that you have on the slide. And if I'm able to answer them, I'll send off a response. And if it's too hard for me, I'll send it up the line, and I'll get King Ken to hopefully respond to those in a live forum. So we will be able to respond to all your queries. So if for those that aren't familiar with the Zoom, there is a chat function where you can actually send a message either directly to Ken and myself, or you can send it to everyone. And we do encourage you to send to everyone, because other people may have that same question and would like to see that answer as well. So if you can share that with everyone, that'd be fantastic. We also have a Q&A it's another way to get in touch with Ken and I, but it's not quite as easy to use as the chat function. So I'd just recommend opting for the chat function first. If your tech does happen to fail today due to your internet dropping out or anything like that, the PDF slides are on the USB that has been provided. Hopefully you've received that in the mail by now, and you can follow along in that forum, and also get this on your phone as well, just dialing in with those codes there. If there is an urgent thing that you want to discuss with us and you want us to unmute your microphone, we do have the capability to do that. We don't do it very often, just because it can get quite noisy and distracting and things like that. But if it is something that you really want to bring up and discuss, kind of using your voice, just let us know and we can arrange that. I think that's all from me, from my side of things with the moderating. I was also just going to touch on the Moodle, Ken, if you've got that slide as well. Thank you. So our learning management system is like an online platform where we house all of our training course materials and all the resources. All the quizzes are on here as well. I'll run through at the end of this webinar today exactly what that looks like. Hopefully everyone's already got that set up and it's working nicely. If it's not, just get in touch and we'll make sure that that's up and running for you guys. And that's all from me for now. Please pop into the chat any questions, and look forward to hearing all your concerns.
Thank you, Max. That's excellent. So Max will be there in the background, and yeah, we'll kick along. And that's me there. And I'm principal engineer at Safe System Solutions, a road safety consultancy I set up about 8-9 years ago after leaving VicRoads, the Victorian Road Authority, where I'd been for quite a number of years, doing many different things in the engineering technical space, the management stuff, but I also used to look after road safety auditing for the state. So lots of reviewing lots of audits, doing lots of audits, getting involved in lots of different aspects. My colleague there, Jamie Robinson, is the technical lead at Safe System Solutions. We have Jamie as a guest presenter at one of the later sessions to talk about some detailed design road safety audits and some of the really technical end stuff. I put my QR code there to my LinkedIn. I think the road safety conversation is something that is just ongoing, and we need to continue to share information. And I find LinkedIn is a decent way to do that. We share lots of information. So feel free to jump on there and connect with me, and we can continue the conversation into the future. It's down the bottom of the screen there as well on the first few slides. Okay, one of the little things we do to try to ensure that you're keeping engaged with the content of this course is we have Wally the Wombat. Wally the Wombat warning sign. There's Wally. And what you have to do is count the number of times Wally appears in the session. And it's going to be a random number of times you will see this sign appearing somewhere on the slide, and you just keep a note of that. And one of your questions in the quiz that Max mentioned is how many times did Wally appear? And so you'll have to pop that in. And that is not one of your Wally counts. Wally count is 0 at the moment. You also would have seen there that Max was in the prize pit in his background. Look at that. Exciting little something creatures as prizes. They are not actually the prizes you have a chance to win, but there are prizes available.
That's right. So if we get some nice, good questions that we find interesting, or perhaps the first to answer a question that Ken poses to the group, that's automatic prize worthy. We love to dish them out, and we've got plenty of particular interesting items up for grabs. So yes, that's another way we try and get engagements maximised.
And how do people get these prizes?
So if you complete, or on completion of the course, you'll get mailed out a certificate. And as part of that certificate, we'll also include in the envelope any of the prizes that you may have won as part of the course. So it all comes as one neat package.
I saw some awesome Safe System Solution socks floating around. Box of those arrived, so they'll be sent out as possible prize.
Very
lots
good.
of other excitement. Keep an eye out for Wallies as we go. And Max mentioned their successful completion of the course. We do have some requirements. We have requirements that you attend 4 of the 5 live webinars and view that one if you can't make one. Now, if things go really challenging and you can't make more than one, get in contact with Max, shoot him an email and he'll have a chat with you about that. You need to complete all set tasks, the quizzes, the assignments, and the like. And we have a competency benchmark, and it's quite high, 80%. And that our requirement is to ensure that you have that level of competency going out there in terms of road safety auditing, at least the process of road safety auditing. I'll talk to you a little bit more about that. Now don't get too concerned about that 80%. I mean, it sounds very high, but you have 3 attempts at everything. You have one-on-one coaching available. So if you're struggling with something, can't get your head around the concept, you can contact myself or Max, and we'll have a one-on-one Zoom chat with you or something, and we can talk things through. If you can't get 80%, we have failed as well as you have failed. So we're not going to let that happen. We're going to ensure that your competency level rises to that point. Anything to add before I kick off in some actual content, Max?
It's fantastic. Ready to get going, Ken?
Good. Okay. Well, let's get that that chat going into everybody. Yeah, so you can use your little drop-down arrow there to everybody if you want to make comments on things you find interesting or questions. And Max is going to feed that to me as we go. I'll pause at different points and get different people's inputs, but I'm going to jump into it. Straight into the introduction to road safety audits. So by the end of this particular module, we're going to try and define road safety audits, explain how they fit into the context of a project's lifecycle, an infrastructure project's lifecycle, differentiate between that road safety audit and that black spot investigation or that crash treatment investigation, define risk and risk rate findings in a road safety audit, explain the safe system. We'll have a look into kinetic energy thresholds for different crash types, and we're going to categorize road safety audit findings. So we've got a lot to cover in this one session. Now, this course overall that you're on, it follows the Austroads Guide to Road Safety, Part 6, which is managing road safety audits, and Part 6A, which is the implementation of road safety audits. So those are these 2 documents which will be coming up on your screen. You may have seen these older documents there floating around the office or something. They've been superseded by these 2. And I've just finished working on an Austroads project to take part 6 and part 6A, consolidate them into one part, give them a bit more updating. So you'll be a little bit of step ahead of the game here, because some of the content I'm putting forward here doesn't contradict the existing parts, but is very well specified in the next one that's literally at, with the board of Austroads at the moment, and I think they're meeting as we speak. Hopefully they're signing it off. So overall, this course, the course as a whole, the objectives of this course is really to hone in on the process of road safety auditing. There is no possible way in the limited time we have that you're going to get all the technical knowledge you need to do road safety audits. In fact, you don't get that, you know, in decades, and it's an ongoing learning task, and you're gathering more information and getting insights. What we can do is ensure that you understand the process of road safety auditing. You have some basic sort of understanding of what's going to present risk of death and serious injury on the roads, and you're able to, you know, be a contributing part of a road safety audit team. And some of you will have more technical knowledge than others. Some of you will be specialists in some areas and not others. That's okay, because we usually gather road safety audit teams together and we complement skill sets. So even if you're not a very technical person, you can still add wonderful value to a road safety audit from looking at it from a logical perspective, or a pedestrian perspective, or a cyclist perspective, or other ways. Basic skill set, as that next point says, is what we're trying to achieve. We want to ensure that you're undertaking road safety audits through a safe system lens. That's just a critical part of the existing Part 6 and Part 6A of the Austroads guide, and continues on into the next one and even gets it enhanced more. I'm going to be presenting lots of examples of common issues that we find in road safety audits. They're not going to cover everything, just a few that I've found over my sort of 15, 20 years of auditing that seem to pop up over and over again. And so I'll just use those as a few good examples. We want to ensure that you're considering all road users, and so we have particular sessions on these different road users to understand their needs, to make sure you consider all road users in your road safety audits. And encourage road safety audits, because it is a wonderful way to ensure injecting road safety in and answer any questions you've got. So lots of stuff there. And there's a Wally. I'm going to be nice to you. Look at that. Where's Wally? He's there, Wally the Wombat. Okay, this diagram is straight out of the Austroads guide. There's a lot going on here. I'm not going to spend long on it. I just want to contextualize road safety audits within the big sort of life cycle of a road and a road project, and also talk about a few of the other safety tools available. So up the top here, you see you've got sort of network strategic planning, you've got corridor planning, so you've sort of narrowed it down a bit. Then you're into those sort of business cases, and you've got your then project, and there's some sort of project happening. And then once the project's all, you know, built and open, you sort of got shortly after it's open, and then continuing ongoing operation and maintenance. Road safety audits really fit in around once that project has, you know, has some idea around it, and we've got the feasibility, preliminary, and detailed design stage audits. There's road safety audits you can do during construction, pre-opening, and then there are these sort of post-opening and existing conditions audits that can be done. You see there's lots of other bits and pieces, and I'm not going to spend long on these. We've got safe system principles. I mean, that overarches, it's the vision, that's the safety vision. We've got network safety reviews as a proactive technique, and I should stress that again. Road safety audits are proactive. down here, we have our reactive ways to look at risk on the road network. Treatment of crash locations, black spots, post-implementation reviews. This predictive technique is, we see things like ANRAM, the Australian National Risk Assessment Model, OSRAP and IRAP. In fact, I'll give a prize for the first person who can tell me what IRAP stands for. Get you popping in there, and welcome to our IRAP representative. See how quickly the internet comes from whichever country they're dialing in from. IRAP, first person to type that in can win a prize.
Yes, we've got Eng Lim, International Road Assessment Program, Ken.
Yes, well done, Eng. And Eng is actually accredited, IRAP accredited for coding of roads. So of course he knew what it stood for. Welcome, Eng. And yeah, so that's part of that. And the Safe System Assessment Framework sort of fits in a bit of as a predictive tool as well. Anyway, don't worry too much about that. I'm going to start and jump straight into it. The first common misconception, misunderstanding about road safety audits is that people think that a road safety audit is a review against standards. It is not. Okay, and the reason for that is that standards don't necessarily equal safety. So we know that some standards have safety deficiencies built into them. We know that, now you'd hope if that's the case that we would update those standards and fix those things. We certainly know that multiple standards together can cause some issues. And there's also a whole lot of times when it may be difficult to meet existing standards in an infrastructure project. So as a road safety auditor, it's not your job to check that a design meets the standards. You're looking at it from a logical perspective of what could cause death or serious injury. What is reasonable for us to think could cause death or serious injury if they build what they are proposing or with the road as it is. Now, standards, though, are a decent place to start from if you're aware of them. And you can look then and say, oh, it doesn't meet standards. Am I still concerned about that? Is that likely to present significant risk? But certainly, you are under no obligation as a road safety auditor if something does not meet standards to report it, or vice versa. If it does meet standards, to not report it. So if you see something and it meets the standards and guidelines, but you're still concerned about it as an auditor, you put that in your report. Now, if you see something that doesn't meet standards and you're not concerned about it from a safety perspective, you are not obligated to put that into your report. In practice, people will often do that. They might not risk rate it. They might say just something to note, by the way, that doesn't actually meet the standards, but you don't have to do that. So let's take an example on this. And here we go. I'll give a prize for anybody. The first person, this is going to be hard for some jurisdictions. Anybody can tell me which road this is. A couple of little clues on this one. But it's going to be hard for a few jurisdictions.
We've got Jamie saying CityLink. Is it CityLink, Ken?
It's not CityLink, but he's done very well on the guess there. That's quite a. If we don't get another guess, we'll probably give that prize. It's close. Oh, he's got it.
Oh,
he got
EastLink.
He got it in there just after. It is EastLink. The little toll road sign for the Victorians in the group will be the giveaway. No, that was just a little aside. Okay, this is a tragic event that occurred, a fatality, and you see there that the truck has left the road, gone through the barrier system, and hit the sign gantry, and unfortunately been killed. Now, this was not that long after EastLink opened. EastLink's a very high standard road, and had, just building multi-billion-dollar road, and had extremely good designers and people involved in looking at it. And it was built to standard. But the question I sort of pose is, we've built this huge investment to standard, and not that long after it's opened, we've had somebody killed. So how did that possibly happen? Now, the question sort of comes about as, all right, well, were the standards deficient? Were they not considering different elements? The question I'm going to pose is this barrier system here. You can see it. It's a wire rope safety barrier system. Let's say, hypothetically, let's say it was a test level 4 barrier system. So barrier systems on the roadside have these things called test levels. And that just defines what was the test protocol that was undertaken to see if that barrier would hold a vehicle in the right way, would contain a vehicle in the right way. And so you crash these vehicles into the barrier at different speeds and with different weight vehicles, and it goes from test level 1 up to test level 6. So test level 4 barrier system. And the question I've got is, what test at a test level 4, they crashed a vehicle into the barrier at 25 degrees. What weight do you think that vehicle is? I'll give a prize to the person who guesses closest to the weight of the vehicle in tons. Have a guess. You might as well. No points off if you get it incorrect.
Okay, I've got a few guesses coming through. We've got 10 ton, 80 ton, 2 ton, 2,200 kilograms or 2.2 ton, 30 ton, 20, 42. Any of those getting close, Ken?
Yeah. I'll give it to the person who said 10 first. Now the test protocols sort of changed. And some of you might have heard these terms. NCHRP 350 was the old test protocol. It's now gone to MASH. So you might hear this term MASH. Now, I'm not going to get into the details of barriers, and I'll contextualize this for road safety audit shortly. But it would have been an 8-ton vehicle. It's now would be a 10-ton vehicle if it's test level 4. For the people who said 2-ton, that's a test level 3. So that was a pretty good guess too, as well. But give it to that one. Now, the point here is that if you were auditing this, if you were a barrier person and you know this stuff, you would know that. You would probably be there with colleagues and you might ask these questions. You might have somebody with barrier specialty and you'd have these discussions and say, well, what test level is that barrier? What can we expect it to do? And really, we can't expect that barrier to contain a vehicle of this size, which would be 30 ton, depending on whether it was had its cargo in it and whether there was another cabin to it, another trailer to it. So it could be 30, 40. It's way above what that barrier was ever designed to contain. So then, as an auditor, you would start to be unpacking and saying, well, what vehicles are we expecting on this road? And is it reasonable to expect that a vehicle might, a larger, heavy vehicle might leave the road? And if it did, where along this route could it possibly leave, and where are higher risks? Now, this is where I start to go, well, tragic event here. So the drivers hit this. The gantry itself has significantly shifted there. And the big concern, extra concern really, if the whole gantry was to come down, and then we would potentially have even more catastrophic events. A catastrophic event as is, but more catastrophic event. So as an auditor, even though this meets standards and guidelines, these are the kind of things you are free to question and to say, maybe we should up that. Oh, it meets standards and guidelines, don't worry about that. But maybe we should up that. So good, thank you for your input on that. And that's just really one to reinforce that that is the size of vehicle. This is actually the new system, the 10-ton vehicle. And doesn't have too much cargo, but that's sort of what we're expecting it will contain, not those larger ones. Let's have another look at just an example here of something that arguably meets standards and guidelines, but maybe would be something you would pick up as a road safety auditor. Now, some of you will know this area. It's the Chandler Highway in Melbourne, just over the new Chandler Bridge. Just using it because I had the designs and I thought it was an interesting one. Let's zoom in. There's a big, massive new development in here, huge stuff. And so they've got a signalized intersection in this new bit of duplication that they've built, and this is the way it's being designed. And you'll see there, I put a little square where you're driving along in your car at it's a 60 km/h speed zone, so maybe you're going 62 or 63, maybe. Hopefully you're not, but some people do. And you're traveling along, and all of a sudden you're in a right turn lane. So this is what we call a trap lane. And sometimes I just marvel at the naming of different things. And I think this one's just captured the essence of this beautifully. A trap lane is essentially that. You are driving along with no intention to turn, and all of a sudden you are in a lane that is going to turn left or right, and you're trapped. Now, we know that if you have a trap lane, you're going to get crashes in this area, probably a little bit further up. We know that because you're driving along, you realize you're in a trap lane, and you want to get out of it. And you may not be concentrating as a driver as much because you're just continuing on. You're not having to make any movements. Now, trap lanes aren't specified as you cannot do them, but there's bits of Austroads that discourage them and try to say that they could be issues, but they inevitably appear in different designs. And the reasoning for that is varied, but it's often about land availability and different things like that. So this is where, again, a road safety auditor, you've got to try to identify this first, that it's a trap lane, and I'll give you some techniques to work through all of these sorts of things as we go. I want to identify that they're going to build this new intersection, which is going to create a trap lane to the next intersection, and then sort of try to help them with ways that they could possibly lessen the risk here. Ideally, that they do that they remove this trap lane altogether, or finding ways to try to significantly lessen the risk. All right, I think, Max, anything that I need to deal with come in, or you got it all covered?
So far, so good, Ken. Feel free to keep going.
Okay. What I'm going to do here is play a little video of a crash. And what I want you as participants to do is have a look at it and tell me anything you think that in the road environment may have contributed to this driver not giving way where they should have. Okay? So I'm not asking for any driver behavior stuff. I'm just asking for what factors in the road environment contributed to the chance of the crash, the likelihood of the crash, them actually making these mistakes. What contributed to that? So I'll play it a couple of times for you to have a look at. So hang on a second. Hopefully this streams through for you. I've just started playing it now. We're looking at the back view and we'll see the car, and then we look at the front view in a sec. All right, Max, I'm going to play that again, and I'm going to now ask the people to start jotting in as they think of them things in the road environment that may have influenced the mistake. Oh.
I think it's a bit clearer when it goes into this slow motion video, Ken. It's a bit easier to see the approach to the intersection.
Mm-hmm.
Watch that again. We've had a few comments come through. Ken, do you want to read them out for you?
Yeah, read me out a few. I'm going to give a prize. I've written down one particular one. Now, it's not to say necessarily it's the biggest one, but as a factor that influences, I'm going to give a prize for the first person that comes up with the one that matches what I wrote. If
we've got Paul saying there's a see-through to the closed road on the far side, so a see-through effect on the far side of the deep section.
That was the prize winner. Straight off the bat. Look at that. Well done, Paul. And I'll talk a little bit more about that shortly, but I'm interested in some other ones that have come through.
Speed and not giving way to through traffic, which is fairly self-identified there at that intersection. Low lighting / poor lighting from Amanda. No traffic signals or no turning lanes. Stopping sight distance and speed limit is not correct. Do we know the speed limit in there, Ken? Perhaps they weren't tracking the speed.
No, but I think it's an interesting one. People are, I like this, playing around with the idea of speed with speed and speed limit an issue, travel speeds, those sorts of things. So that's all good stuff to think about.
Reverse curves on approach, not tight enough to force driver speed reduction. I think that's a very good point as well. That doesn't necessarily slow the driver down as they approach there. Lane too wide, allowing overtaking. Plenty of answers coming through now. I'm only just popping every second one. No additional arrow pavement markers. Good work, guys. Heaps of comments coming through.
Well, I'm also having a bit of a read of this. This is a great group. They're really having a look at this, and it's amazing. I mean, very hard to tell a lot of stuff from a video like this. You want to get out there in person, but I'll just run through a couple of those things that came up, and then I want to talk about a few other things. So let's just jump back and we'll have a look at this, some vision of it. And I'll come back to Paul's comment about see-through effect shortly. But I mean, there are different little bits and pieces that are picked up that I think are relevant to think about. Somebody mentioned the signs blocking other signs. So I mean, that's an interesting little point. Is it a big risk? Probably not, but it's something to know. Somebody talked about what are the sight distance. Do we have good sight distance at the intersection there? Somebody talked about reverse curves on the approach. Now, this is a question I won't delve into in detail, but what intersection form did people think this was? I wonder whether that person thought it was a roundabout, because we would traditionally put reverse curves on the approach to a roundabout. So that's a sort of chicane in for those who don't know. This is not a roundabout, but it does sort of have some roundabout looking characteristics to it, doesn't it? So that in itself is a really good insight into how we want you to be as an auditor. You've got to try to put yourselves in the shoes of a driver, a rider, a walker who is not familiar with the area. What could they be confused by? What could deceive them? And there's a term we use in road safety auditing called visual deceit. And it is where the road environment has deceived the driver or the rider or the walker. It's deceived them in the intersection form or in their obligation to give way. Now, what Paul mentioned, the see-through effect, right? The see-through effect is a really common thing in a lot of road crashes we see. And it is a form of the general overarching suite of visual deceit. And it's that somebody's approach to this, they're looking off into the distance thinking that their road continues on. And it's too late when they realize, oh, actually, I was meant to give way here. And then they realize that. Now, there are some very subtle things that increase this visual deceit and see-through effect that a driver will never be able to articulate to you in a good way. But the human factors, behavioral psychologists really delve into this. And this is where we get this lovely interface between infrastructure and human factors. And one of the keys to this is power poles or trees that continue through. So they run along a road and they just continue through. And it's a psychological effect that draws the driver to think that their road continues without any change to priority. And this has that. It has that run of power poles that continues on through. A run of trees will do the same. Lighting will do the same. Now, this happens quite a bit out there as we alter the road environment. If we do a modified T intersection, so we change priority, if we alter the alignment of a road, we will often leave the visual deceit run, line of power poles, line of trees, and a driver approaching that, and it only takes one in a million, believes their road, or is, a bit dazed, a bit asleep, not quite concentrating as much as we'd like them to, but then they can continue through. So visual deceit's an interesting one, and it's a theme that'll come up a little bit. And really, to me, it typifies our role as auditors, which is not to say, tick, that's to standard, yes, the line marking's long enough, this, that. Sure, we can have a look at that. But it's to say, what are the things that aren't being picked up that we need to consider from that general common sense perspective? So visual deceit. There you go. And I think other things that were brought up there, the sight distance, was the line marking good enough? Are the approach speeds appropriate? Was there enough advanced warning? Could we add features in here to give more warning to the driver that they have that give way requirement? Could the intersection have a better form in terms of, could it be a roundabout? Could it be signalized? All good questions to be asking as a road safety auditor. And this is a really interesting one, and I'm sure some of you were quite intrigued by this, but goes into the intersection, crashes, and this wasn't the question that I asked you, but then breaks this light pole away. Now, that is a slip-based light pole. That light pole was designed to break away when that car hit it. It's done a wonderful job. And in fact, I would say that decision to use a slip-based pole in this scenario has probably saved the life, if not quite serious injuries, for the driver who was just driving along, going about their own business, and the white car popped out here and struck them. So a decision that was made in the design here, and it could have been helped by the road safety auditor, or maybe it was just the designer's decision. They said, we're going to use a slip-based pole, slip-based lighting pole in this scenario. Now, I'll admit, I've never seen a slip-based pole that has a separation of the top element. I'd be keen if anybody has any more information about that. The base of it is a very standard slip-based mechanism. So what is a slip-based pole? A slip-based pole is, I just think is just absolute genius. It is essentially a lighting pole, as you see here, that's got some bolts around a collar that, when it is struck at the bottom and sheared, it slides across and separates the bolts out. But when it gets its torque loading, so up top, from wind and the like, the bolts are managing to hold that load. So it's a wonderful road safety invention for lighting poles. And there you can see in order to just having a look at the height of the slip-based pole, for some reason using a highly scientific measuring tool of a pen. Max, you should make sure they get a Barry to measure that. And the reason for that is that if your slip-base shearing plane is too high, the car, it's more likely that the car will snag on it and you've lost all of the benefit. If it's too low, we're just not 100% sure that it will function exactly as it should. A bit lower is far better than a bit high for a slip-based pole. But again, as an auditor, these are the kind of things you can be looking at for existing infrastructure out there. And if they're planning new infrastructure, you might be given as a road safety auditor a plan like this. Lots of bits and pieces to it, but they're planning new lighting within here, and they're choosing, to put slip-based poles here and here and here, and then this one's going to be a rigid pole. And so you're then saying, oh, well, how is this all going to operate? Now, here's a little hypothetical example, and it's not that hypothetical, but this is Victoria Gardens, and it was all upgraded for different reasons. Now, hypothetically, if they had in the design said this one is going to be a slip-based pole, because we're concerned about vehicles leaving the road and hitting this pole, and we want it to break away on impact. As a road safety auditor, what might you comment on when you're looking and reviewing their design? What do you think of that? What are any potential risks? So Jamie's put in their power lines. Okay, we're seeing some other things coming in. Falling onto pedestrians, onto power lines. These are very good things as a road safety auditor to be thinking about and looking into. Will it perform the same for a two-wheel vehicle as a four-wheel vehicle? Absolutely not. It's definitely designed for a car to share. So those are a couple of really good points that have come in there. And the big one there is falling onto pedestrian areas is a big concern, and onto power lines, and the resulting potential death and serious injury that could occur. This one also has traffic signals on it, which would be another consideration. So if you do have these scenarios where you're a bit concerned by that, there is an alternative if you do want to provide a frangible pole. Now, frangible is the overarching suite term that we use for anything that sort of breaks away on impact or absorbs on impact. Frangible. It's a term we use a lot in the industry. It's a term I've learnt not to use in community consultation because they just have no idea what we're talking about. But to break away on impact. So this is another type of frangible pole. I showed you a slip-based pole. This is a different one. I'll give a prize if somebody can tell me what this one's actually called. But when it's hit, it contains within a general envelope of the vehicle. So it's not going to be quite as forgiving, and it sort of all contains in, but it's a different type of frangible light pole. Any guesses on what that was called there?
Nothing's come through just yet. Here we go. Michael said impact absorbing pole, Ken.
Correct. Impact absorbing is correct.
Congratulations, Michael.
Are you keeping track of prizes, are you, mate?
Yes, I'm making sure everyone's going to be getting theirs in the post. Keep it up.
Good. Okay. So the general rules we have are that in high-speed environments, 80 kilometers per hour and above, you would use a slip-based pole. In lower speed environments, if you wanted to use something that would absorb energy, you would use an impact absorbing pole. Or you might elect that speeds are low enough that you could use a rigid pole, or you believe that the risk is low enough. So the two sort of common road safety audit findings out of this are, one thing you would question as an auditor is, okay, they're planning these, where are they going to fall? Yeah. First of all, have they used the right slip-based mechanism or frangibility mechanism? Where's it going to fall? And what's the height of the shearing plane for existing roads? So again, I'm just picking little bits and pieces to show you, well, common road safety audit things, find these a lot, but also the way what an auditor is looking for, thinking about. Now, a road safety audit is proactive, and I showed you this in that life cycle of an audit diagram. The reactive, once you've got a cluster of crashes, the reactive process to that is a black spot investigation. So if you have an area with lots of crashes, you're probably going to want to do a black spot investigation, look at each of the crashes in detail, draw your crash diagrams, do a crash matrix, look for common themes. Are they all happening at night? Are they all happening in wet weather? A road safety audit isn't doing that detailed crash investigation. It's looking more holistically at what are the potential risks, what could happen in the future. It doesn't need to have happened already, but what could happen. And often as a road safety auditor, you're looking at something that has not been built yet. So to a degree, crash history may be irrelevant because you're completely changing, or they're completely changing, and you're trying to read this plan, look at what's being proposed and say, I'm worried that these crashes could happen. Now, a question that often pops up is, should we use crash history as part of the road safety audit? I've audited with people who refuse to look at crash history because they, especially for design audits, they say, no, we're fundamentally changing it, and we've got to throw all of that out and say, what are the risks when they build this new feature? I've audited with auditors who like to look at it to understand what's sort of happened there, and then imagine it altered, and are we going to continue with some of that? And so there's no set rule on this. What I would say is don't use crashes as your driving influence in a road safety audit, because you're essentially doing a black spot investigation if you're doing that. I do like a process where you audit without looking at it, and then have a look at them sort of when you've got your head around things and jotted some ideas down, because you haven't been driven, your ideas haven't really been changed, and then you might look at that and maybe alter a few things here and there. Pop your questions in the chat as we go, and I'll answer them as they come up. Anything popped in there, mate?
Santosh has just kindly shared some photos from a job that they worked on, a slip-based pole being struck, and just shared them with the group as well. So thanks for passing them on. Some real examples of these out on Road Network.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you for doing that. There is also a space in Moodle for shared resources. If you know of a document or something that others might find useful, you can put it in there as well. But sharing it through the chat's a wonderful way to do that as well. Just a little did you know, road safety audits have been independently evaluated quite a few times. And I'm not just talking one road safety audit, but like whole massive collections of road safety audits. Somebody did their PhD on this in Canada, actually, in what is the effectiveness of road safety audits. And from a sort of traditional benefit cost ratio perspective, a design stage road safety audit. So this is when they come up with a design for road upgrades, they hand it to a road safety auditor, they make their suggestions and changes, they hand it back, they're altered in the design, and then it's built. Gives a benefit cost ratio of 36:1. Every dollar invested in that design stage road safety audit returns $36 in benefits. For the existing conditions, it's not as big, it's a 6:1. The reason for that is it's a lot cheaper to change lines on a bit of paper or in CAD than it is to alter existing concrete and pavement and the like. But there is a bit of cost in sometimes in audit recommendations, but the benefit is clear, isn't it? 36 to 1, it's massive. Okay, now here's a slide which has more words than I would like it to. However, it is straight out of the Austrades guide. That is the definition of a road safety audit in accordance with Austrades 2019. A road safety audit is a formal, robust technical assessment of road safety risks associated with transport projects. Road safety audits are completed by independent and qualified audit teams, completed by applying safe system principles while seeking to ensure the roads operate as safely as practical by eliminating fatal and serious injury crashes. Consider the safety of all road users, can be conducted on proposed or existing roads. The objective of an audit is to identify foreseeable hazards. The road audit process provides a reasonable but not absolute hazard identification method for all road users, with a particular focus on the reduction in fatal and serious injury crashes. And then a couple of things it's not. It's not an opportunity to redesign or make changes to a design without an apparent link to safety. And it's not a technical check against design standards. And that should really be a part of any quality management system and quality assurance process within an organization. Okay, let's unpack this a little bit. Some really important words for you that are fundamental to road safety. It is a formal process. To say, oh, I'm just ducking out the site to do a road safety audit, and you know, you duck out, you have a look, and you shoot an email back, you know, here are some issues. That is not a road safety audit. That might be a very good thing to do, but it's certainly not a road safety audit. It has not followed the process. It has not been formal. It hasn't met all the different requirements. It's not another name for a site inspection or a, you know, you can't have the designer next to you go, oh, I've just finished my design. Can you audit it for me and have it back over lunch? And no, what you're doing is probably just a design review, a check, you know, a third party, second party check, third party check, whatever it is. Okay, independent and qualified audit teams. Independence is something that is really critical to road safety auditing. You cannot road safety audit your own design. You cannot road safety audit the project that you're a project manager for. You cannot road safety audit, you know, something that you have an involvement in. Now, the only sort of exception to this is to our state government and local government friends. If you are doing an existing conditions road safety audit on your network, that is deemed acceptable because it's the existing conditions. The independence is important for a couple of reasons, though. For designs, especially here, I mean, you cannot proofread your own work. I mean, you do your own proofreading. So say you write a letter, you write the letter, and you reread it, and you go, yeah, nailed that one. And then you hand it to a colleague. Say, can you proofread that? And then they find these mistakes, and you get it back and you're like, how did I miss that? You missed it because you were too close to it. You were in it. You were too embedded in it, right? Same with designs. Same with road designs. You can be too embedded in it to be able to pick some of these things. Second of all, as a designer or a project manager, you have so many things to be considering. You've got costs, environment, cultural heritage, you've got the community and all their challenges, and you know, the list goes on. You've got your budget. A road safety auditor comes in cleanly looking at road safety and just says it as they see it from a road safety perspective. Is quite liberating to road safety audit because you can throw off the shackles of a whole lot of those things, and they're your road safety issues. And you when you make recommendations, you can sometimes try to help the team. But if you see an issue, it can be something that is impossible to avoid. It's still an issue. All right, you put it in there. But the project manager might be saying, well, we can't do this with political commitment, whatever it is that, but as an auditor, you just say it. Completed by applying safe system principles. And I'll show you shortly in the next few slides how we do that. And that's something fairly new in road safety auditing. Road safety auditing has been around for nearly 30 years in Australia, and around the world, probably only a few more years above that. It started in the UK. Actually, I think I will, just because I have a minute, I will tell you where and how road safety audit started, because it does give you an insight into what their purpose is. This was in the UK, and there was a team that were building roads, right? Building intersection upgrades, duplications, new bit of road. There was this road safety team, which was completely independent in another building, and they were going around doing black spot treatments. And after a while, the head of that area said, this has happened many years, said, we're doing a lot of black spot treatments on new road sections. What do you reckon if we had a look at those designs before they built them, and using all of our knowledge that we've gained through looking at all these crashes and understanding road safety, and made comments on it before they built it, and try to weed those issues out before it's even built? They said, yeah, this is a good idea. And then they decided to term it a road safety audit, right? They could have called it the independent check or the whatever. It got termed audit. I think that's given us some good advantages. It's caused us some issues as well for a few different reasons. One particularly being that people immediately think of a financial audit and meeting standards in black and white, which is not what we do, but it's given us some good clout as people to inject safety into projects. And the safe system principles have entered in of late, and it's really just a little tweak on the way we do auditing. The general process is all still the same. It's just really factoring in a few other things. All road users, we absolutely consider all road users in our road safety audit. It's certainly not just for cars or pedestrians or cyclists or trucks. It's for everybody. But sometimes you get asked to do a thematic road safety audit. It has a theme. So it could be a motorcycle audit. And what you're doing in that is taking special interest in the risk of motorcyclists, and really you actually get into that in a big way. You would actually have a motorcyclist part of your team, you would ride the route, and a whole lot of other things. So I'll take you through that later. Proposed or existing roads we've talked about. Any questions there? I think we're doing okay. It looks like.
So far, so good, Ken. No problems.
Thanks, Max. Okay, the safe system. And the beauty of when I started running road safety audit courses about 13 years ago or so, I used to have to explain the safe system in so much detail because people had never heard of it and they didn't understand this thing. Nowadays, it's a luxury. People know the safe system. They've seen this diagram 1,000 times, or it's or its close neighbor diagrams. But essentially, we've got human bodies are vulnerable, so we're taking into account human tolerance to physical force. How much force before humans are injured or killed? We're taking into account people make mistakes. What we're trying to do in an audit is minimize those mistakes through the infrastructure we build, but we want to manage the mistakes to within that tolerable energy. We have a shared responsibility, meaning that us involved in the infrastructure and the design and the system, we need to be taking responsibility for everything that's happening out there. Even with people's crazy behaviors, we've still got to say that's as much our responsibility as it is theirs. And we've got to look at what we could have altered. And we've got to try to put in place systems that they can do better as drivers, walkers, riders. And then we've got the vehicle, the speeds, the road users, and the roads as levers. And the principles of the safe system, we have this aspiration of zero death and serious injury. It's a long way away, but we're aiming at that. We're not aiming for some sort of acceptable level where we kill a portion of our community because that's the inevitable cost of transport, we reject that premise. We say, no, we are going for zero. Same way you would in a workplace health and safety. Nobody says, oh, well, it's the cost of making bread. We've got to kill a few people. No, we say absolutely not. Your factory doesn't let that risk happen. We should be doing the same in our roads, but it's a longer term. We have to evolve our system to get there. But people make mistakes, shared responsibility I talked about, and that vulnerability of the human. How much force can we take before we break? And as an auditor, we actually do a little bit of that thinking in a similar way to a safe system assessment, those who have done safe system assessments with me. In a similar way, we do pack a little bit of that, more of that into a road safety audit these days. Now, Max, hopefully we've got a quiz with 5 questions in there. 4 of the questions people should know answers to because we've covered them. 1 they won't. Well, some of them might because I've asked it before.
This is really the moderator's time to shine. Hopefully I can launch this poll without any difficulty. So here we go, session 1, poll 1. Hopefully everyone up on their screen will see some questions and you should be able to click on your answer. And as Ken mentioned, there's a few questions to get through. And once you have submitted them, we can go through them all.
Now, Max, are people being marked on this? Is this going to their grades?
No, this is not part of the quiz at all. So there's no formal assessment as part of this. It's just for this interaction webinar. And sorry, Grace, the answers should just go on the poll itself. So in the actual pop-up, you should be able to click on the answers rather than popping it in the chat.
But if you are having trouble, you could jot it on a bit of paper or put it in the chat. Remember, you're not being marked for these.
That's true. So we're starting to get some answers in now, so that's good to see. We've got 31 joining us today, Ken, so we've got plenty of participants engaging in our course.
Yes, welcome, whatever crazy hour of the morning it is for those kind of dialing in from other countries.
Luckily, you ordered all those extra prizes, Ken, because we're certainly getting through them today.
Well, it's a good group, lots of interaction, and lots of good answers coming in. And I'm reading back as they're doing that on some of those other answers for the intersection crash we had a quick look at. So that was good. Lots of good.
We're just over the 60% mark of people have answered. So good on you for getting it in there. We're nearly there and we'll show the results shortly, but it looks like we're getting some good answers coming through. All right, just a few more to finish off. We're nearly there. Glad to see this poll worked first shot. That was something on my mind, but glad to see technology favoured me this time.
Are we worried about poll crashes, Max?
I've had experiences, Ken, which have made things a bit challenging.
That was a road safety joke. A poll crash.
That's good.
We just talked about slip-based polls.
That's very good.
Different spelling, but yeah.
You're quick with those. That's good. Okay, we're at 96%. I think we may have one just waiting, but I might just end it there because we'll get a good snapshot of where everyone's feeling. So I'll click on the end poll and hopefully that shares the results with everyone that we've got participating. So I'll click share as well. And Ken, do you want to read through them or you want to happy to jump through them yourself?
Yeah, I'll have a go through. road safety law is another name for check against standards. No, that's false. And 100% of you got that right. Well, oh, that's fantastic. Well done. True or false? You can audit your own design. Again, that's false. You cannot audit your own design. And 100% of you correct on that. I'm loving the fact that you're all actually listening to this. Well done. Which of the following is not considered a formal element of the safe system? Oh, this is a tricky one. Which of the following is not considered?
I dare say there's an answer missing there, Ken.
I say that's a very hard question to answer. I would have got that. I would have got that one wrong too.
I think the poll master spoke a bit too soon when I said that I didn't stuff anything up, because there's certainly there should have been an incorrect response with those ones, and all of those would be considered formal elements of the safe system. I'm not sure how that one didn't make it.
That's okay.
That's one to leave with Max. Apologies, guys.
Which of these is not one of the common principles of the safe system? Eliminate mistakes on the road. That's correct. I mean, we're going to try to minimize and manage. We are sort of aware that part of being human is making mistakes, and it's going to happen on the roads, and we need to minimize and manage. And what speed did you say? Well, 15 of you were correct there. 50% of you, 44 kilometers an hour. I reckon some of the others, were probably maybe trying to average speeds out and doing meters a second to kilometers per hour.
And that one's just for your love of athletics, Ken?
Well, I thought that might be a good one to roll us into a discussion around human tolerance to physical force. So Usain Bolt running at 44 kilometers an hour in his world record 100-meter sprint in Berlin. If we parked a 2010 Toyota Camry at the end of his lane and he came running down there and bang, runs into that, will he survive? Will he survive, Max? What do you reckon?
Well, it is Usain Bolt, and he's a bit of a mammoth of a man. I reckon he'll be all right. Yeah,
well, I mean, your analysis there is pretty good, because he's a hulk of a human, isn't he? And he will withstand more force than us mere mortals, and nor can us mere mortals run at his speed. And in fact, there's this interesting correlation between your maximum running speed and your ability to withstand force running into solid objects. So you can run at maximum speed at a tree, and you will hurt yourself, I'm sure, and you may break bones and things, but you should recover to lead a normal, healthy life. It's in fact how we probably evolved. But we've got better information about that when the car is running at us. And you see there a graph here, it's collision speed, and a lot of you are very aware of this, but this is collision speed. This is not speed limit. This is collision speed, fatality probability on the y-axis. So that is, what is the chance that when this crash happens at this speed with a vehicle, passenger vehicle, striking a pedestrian, that the pedestrian would be killed? And we see there 10, 20, about 30 kilometers per hour is where it exponentially kicks up. It goes really bad, really quickly, higher than 30 kilometers per hour. The great man there comes in a bit further up, as Max said. He's the hulk of a human. He'll withstand more force than us mere mortals. We have that. Oh, here's more what we are designed to withstand. Now he broke a few ribs, but he went on to win the gold medal the next year. So, lead a normal, healthy life. We can handle that sort of stuff. We have this information for side impact as well. So right angle, side impact with a vehicle. This is the bullet vehicle speed. This is the target vehicle, and target vehicle occupant, driver or passenger, depending on which side it's struck. This is their fatality probability. And we see at 50 km/h, bullet vehicle speed is about where it goes really bad really quickly after that in terms of increasing speed. And for head-on crashes, it's 70 km/h, each vehicle going 70. And we see there at about 70 km/h is that exponential kick up for death, likelihood of death for the occupants of those vehicles. And what we do in a safe system, is we sort of draw a line where at that point where things go really bad really quickly. We acknowledge that there's a residual here that we need to continue to work on with other measures, but we're trying to get our infrastructure at least within these points, or to alter the infrastructure to change that. I've put this into a table here, a little bit more information for some car to tree to pole impacts, 30 to 40 km/h, pretty slow. You will, as a road safety auditor, have to be referring back to these just to check. Okay, I've imagined a crash now. It's what we do as an auditor. We imagine what could happen. You've imagined this crash in your mind. And now what you need to do is decide, is that above these limits or below it? Is it above it, as in it's, up here, somebody's very likely to be killed. This could be a head-on crash at 100 km/h, sitting way above this point here. Or is it below? Is it somewhere down here? So you've got a bit more information. And the process, the old model of road safety auditing basically was find your issues, look at the designs, find issues of concern, risk rate them, and then provide recommendations. The new model, we still find the issues, we still risk rate them the same way we always have. Then we make this comment about its tolerance with physical force from that graph, from that data we're saying. So is the crash going to be above or below 30 km/h? Is it going to be above or below 50 km/h for side impact right angle? Is it going to be above or below 70 for head-on crashes? And you just flag whether it's above or below. You make recommendations, and then you give a little bit of information about your recommendation in terms of its categorization within safe systems. Is it something that's going to be a really huge benefit, going to virtually eliminate death and serious injury, or is it something that's going to help out a bit? I think the easiest way for me to explain this is to just run through a couple of worked examples of issues where I write out the issue, I do a risk rating, recommendation, safe system energy, and categorize. And that'll be an easy way. It'll take us through now. Okay, here we go. We've got a state department has said, here is the intersection upgrade we've had designed, we're planning to build. We would like to engage you and your team to undertake a road safety audit. Off you go. And the team is formed, the audit team is formed. And you have a look here, and what we're seeing here, we're seeing the green is the new proposed line marking, the black is the curbing, the blue is the underneath what's currently there. So it looks like they're changing a roundabout to traffic signals. Here I can tell by, somebody's mentioned reverse curves, you can see the sweeping blue line there. That's part of the reverse curve. Better delete that, I don't want you to be confused by another one. And we can see the signals going in, we can see where the signals are pointing, and you'd get lots more information. We can see there's a Juma, depending on how you pronounce it, prize for the person who can tell me what that acronym stands for, just as I click on to my next slide. Max?
Yes, we've got a joint use mast arm for you, Ken. Does that sound familiar? Yes. Excellent. Well done, Faradin.
Very good. Joint use mast arm. Yeah, it's basically got your light, your signals and your lighting on the one. Saves you a pole. That's it. It's a good thing from a road safety perspective and maybe cost perspective as well. Okay, but we're not going to look at the Juma. We're going to look at this 2.9 metre wide right turn lane. And as an auditor, I'm going, that looks a little bit narrow. I'm not sure that that's going to be a good thing on this major arterial road. It's got some small narrow lanes next to it as well. So I'm a little bit concerned about how tight this all is. So I want to write up my audit finding, and I want to write the words around this to say, this is an issue. What I would say is a poor way to do that. Right turn bay is too narrow. That's not giving great information. First of all, I don't know which right turn bay you're talking about. I don't know what you mean by too narrow. It's all not helpful. Here's what I'd say is a fair example. The right turn bay from main road to side road is too narrow. Concern is increased potential for sideswipe or rear end crash types. Also, Austroad's road design guide states that a minimum traffic lane width should be 3.3 metres. So that's fair. I'll talk to you a little bit more about that and why we've included standards, even though I told you you don't need to. Here's what I would say is an excellent write-up of this issue. And the first thing that makes me decide that this is excellent is that there is a snip and an arrow. And I know exactly, without even having to start reading, what they're talking about. Okay? And straight away see exactly where we're looking at. The right turn lane from main to side road is too narrow in width for adequately storing right turning vehicles. The concern is the vehicles encroach into the same direction traffic lane while either performing a right turn maneuver or waiting in the bay, especially if more than one vehicle is queuing in the bay. This therefore will increase the potential for sideswipe or rear end crashes, particularly under wet weather conditions and at night. Austroad's road design guide also states that the minimum traffic lane width should be 3.3 metres. The traffic volumes are high. It's a 60 km/h speed zone, and the concern is likely to occur occasionally with likely minor injuries. Okay, so there's a bit there. But what I've done is in order to try to help teach people to cover off the key elements in an audit finding, I've done a formula, or as some friends in transport and main roads up in Queensland have now referred to it as the recipe. The recipe for a road safety audit finding should include the issue and a description of the issue. The crash, you actually specify what type of crash: a side swipe, rear end, head on, pedestrian being struck, bike being struck from behind, right turn against the bike. You actually describe that crash. Any factors that increase or decrease risk, any major factors that you believe are increasing or decreasing the risk, particularly increasing the risk. And then at the end, any standards and guidelines, if applicable, and you know about, like, so if you don't know, like, if you didn't know that Austroads had that specific requirement, it's not a non-complying audit to not have had that in there. If you just went 2.9, that looks narrow, I'm pretty concerned by that. You don't need to put that other bit in, but it helps in this rounded audit finding, and especially with something like this, which is so clearly not meeting some Austroads requirements or guidelines. So that's your recipe. And I want you to take special note of this, because when we mark your road safety audit, right at the end, after you've gone and you've done a road safety audit, and you've written up some issues, we're going to look for this. Have they clarified the issue? Have they specified it to a specific crash? Have they included any risk factors? And have they included any standards and guidelines if they could think of any? Then you go and you say, right, I've identified this issue. What is the risk rating for this issue? In the Austroads Guide to Road Safety, Part 6A, Road Safety Audit Implementation, you'll find this risk matrix. Now, the new one that's going to come out is going to have a new risk matrix, because this one causes us a little bit of a headache, and it has for a while, so we've altered it. But risk is likelihood times consequence, or frequency times severity. I mean, that's your international definition of risk. That's financial risk, health risk, you name it. What's the chance bad thing will happen? And then how actually bad is it going to be? How severe is that going to be? And what we do to work out our total risk is we say, well, what's the frequency? Is it going to be frequent, this crash that we're concerned about possibly happening? Is it frequent, probable, occasional, or improbable? And then how bad is it going to be? Is it going to be catastrophic, serious, minor, or limited? And if you say, oh, well, it's going to be minor, and it's going to occur occasionally, your risk rating is medium. And here's another one. Occasionally we get people in their audits, and their risk rating, they'll put in, a frequency or a severity. No, we need the resultant risk. You need to find it in the matrix and get that risk. Now, that might seem a little bit hard, especially with, well, what's improbable and what's frequent? Well, we have some guidance. That's on page 27 of the Austroads Guide to Road Safety Part 6A, which we have put into Moodle on your memory stick. And you can refer back to this slide if you want. It's easier to do that. And you'll see there that it's got some definitions there of frequency. Once or more per week for frequent, once or more per year, all the way down to improbable, less often than once every 10 years. Now, this is for the crash to happen in the severity that you're worried about. The thing I find with new auditors is everything seems to come out intolerable, right? And the reason for that is that you imagine this crash in your mind and you can't get it out of your mind, and you go, oh, well, that's going to happen, that's going to happen every week. And the thing you need to remember is, well, one little trick I do is I look at the area and I say, okay, they're going to build this and they build it exactly this way. If I come back in 5 years' time, how many deaths and serious injuries would be attributed to that specific issue that I'm concerned with? And it helps me to calibrate my risk rating. I just flagged that new auditors, everything seems to be intolerable risk often. And it just doesn't sort of pass the logic test when you do a reverse look at it, imagining yourself in 10 years' time or 5 years' time, how many deaths or serious injuries that kind of results in. Matt.
Ken, in your 15, 20-year road safety audit career, how many intolerable risks would you think you've included in your RSA reports?
Less than 10. It is the big stick. And there's actually on page 28, the next page or the one after in the Austroads Guide, it says something along the lines of issue must be rectified at any cost. And there's no negotiation. If intolerable risk just has to be rectified. So there's no arguing around it. So it's pretty powerful big stick.
I'm still waiting to use my big stick. I still haven't dropped the big I I-bomb in one of my audits, but I'm waiting for the day. But then again, maybe it's a good thing I haven't used it.
Yes. Okay. All right, so then we go to risk rate. And so in the table, we look there, we've put occasional, minor, we've said it's a medium risk for this, narrow lane. And the minor, because side swipes and rear ends are usually quite minor injury crashes. Occasional, we've determined. Then you say, well, what is the kinetic energy? What is the impact threshold? And for side swipes, we don't have an easy one. It's not head on, it's not intersection, it's not runoff road, it's not vulnerable road use being structured. How are we going to work out what sort of threshold it is? Well, we know that a side swipe or a rear end is going to be very, very acceptable in terms of accepting energy. And so I would equate it to something around a head-on crash. So rear end, you're probably even going to be a little bit more than that. So this is where I would then say this is within tolerable limits, because I think it's going to be happening around the 60 kilometre per hour or so in the majority of cases. This is within what we tolerate. And then we keep moving over and we say, well, what are we going to recommend? Now, this one is a very short recommendation. Sometimes you have lots of longer recommendations, maybe even with multiple things to recommend. But here we're saying, consider measures to reallocate road space to allow for at least a 3.3 metre lane. Now, that's potentially not as much help as we would like to give to a project team. But the essence of a road safety audit is about finding the issue. The design team, the project manager, they can solve the issues. We're just providing a little bit of advice here, a bit of guidance. If you can provide more help, great, do it. If you can't provide more help, just something like this is okay. Then you see here that we've got some categorizations. We've got primary, supporting, non-safe system. Now, non-safe system is just there for terminology. And then we've called that a supporting treatment. But let me give you those. So a primary treatment is road planning, design, management considerations that virtually eliminate potential for fatal and serious injury crashes occurring for the foreseeable crash time. Supporting treatment is any road planning, design, management considerations that improve safety for the foreseeable crash time, but they're not expected to virtually eliminate the potential for fatal and serious injury occurring. And it doesn't change the ability to implement a primary treatment in the future. The non-safe system is anything that makes things bad, as in makes the level of road safety worse, or reduces the ability to implement that primary treatment. What you will be doing is using a primary or a supporting treatment here. And primary does not necessarily mean this is your number one. There could be multiple primary treatments because there's sort of this suite of things that can be done. But my little rule of thumb here, a little bit of advice and help on this one is, if you haven't addressed the severity of the crash to within those tolerable limits, that 30, 50, 70, and those other things, it's very unlikely to be a primary treatment. So things we know are primary treatments are raised pedestrian crossings. So we're slowing the vehicles as well as giving priority. And we know the energies will be down. We know that pedestrians are clear. That's in there. Roundabouts for passenger vehicles, very much a safe system primary treatment for passenger vehicles. We might have to think about pedestrians and cyclists in those as well. So there's a few continuous barrier systems and the like. Supporting treatments, we're talking about signs, line marking, lighting, surface improvements, sealed shoulders, all of that sort of stuff. That is supporting, right? The reason for that is it's all great and it's all going to improve road safety. But if you get the line marking all right, people can people are still going to, you know, be half asleep or miss something or the like. We're going to try and minimize it with all these good supporting treatments, but it could still happen and the crash could result in death. This is probably going to be one you're going to need a little bit of practice on categorizing. And Ostrode's guide, the Ostrode Safe System Assessment Framework actually has lists of these. And the Ostrode's guide that'll come out shortly has more information on this and some lists of stuff. But for now, just have a bit of a practice at it. Big ticket items that address the severity of crashes, primary, supporting generally most everything else. So then you put that into your, any recommendations you make, you just mark them. And you might not have a primary recommendation. So you'll notice that one's just a supporting. Okay, because that has not physically stopped a sideswipe crash happening. That's just made it less likely, hasn't it? Let me run through this one quickly as we dig into our last half hour here. This is an audit finding here. I mean, the diagram here is great, isn't it? You don't even need to read that to see what the auditor here is concerned about. We've got a vehicle that's propping at this new intersection. We've got a vehicle turning left here, and we've got this green, which is sight lines. I love it. We've got a diagram that just tells the whole story. The words in there are, just added extra, and we might even like to see it to ensure that they stick to that recipe. And I'm not sure this one quite does, but I like the diagram. For the intersection, vehicles turning left may create a dynamic visual obstruction for motorists, the hold line, increasing the likelihood of crashes involving vehicles turning out of the side road. Okay, so they haven't addressed a standard or guideline associated with this, and actually that's because that meets our standards and guidelines, the current design of that, unless you're in Queensland, because I understand Queensland has just released a specific separation requirement, which is exciting. For those who sort of want to visualize this crash type, here we go. This risk. So you can see here you're waiting to turn out, and you're looking up the road, and you can see there's the truck, and you can see that white car next to it, and you go, okay. And you go a little bit further forward, and you go, oh, beauty, the truck's turning left. I'm going to go as soon as this white car passes. And then masked behind that the whole time was this other silver car. And if you had sort of ducked out at that point, we see a very severe right angle crash directly into driver's side at high speed. So the level of risk for this one, looking back to the risk matrix, they've gone, well, it's improbable, right? But when it does happen, it's going to be serious. Now, this is probably an indication where you've gone, improbable. You've got this vision now of this in your mind, and you're just going, wow, this is going to happen for sure. Well, the reality is that we know that risk exists, but it manifests in an actual crash in a fairly rare manner. But when it does, it's really bad. So it's been put in as medium. Exceeds tolerable limits, because we know that right angle crash is going to be well above that 50 km/h side impact right angle crash speed that we are accepting. Now, this recommendation's now got more meat to it. Consider measures to reduce the speed and/or angle of impact at this location. This could be achieved with a roundabout, primary treatment. If this cannot be achieved, consider measures to improve the sight lines at this location, such as increasing the offset of the left turn lane, supporting. That's the Queensland new method with the sort of wide line to separate there. Reallocation of the hold line forward, provided that it can be done so safely, supporting. So the reason these are supporting, even though you've opened up sight lines, that crash can still happen. the right angle crash at the speed and the severity. We've done nothing for the severity of that crash. It's lessened the chance it'll have. Same with moving and adjusting the hold line. But if you get a roundabout in there, it's virtually eliminated that right angle, high impact speed crash, death and serious injury. And there's my little tip again. To be categorized as a primary treatment, it must either address the consequence of the crash or virtually eliminate the possibility. And that's got to include understanding that humans are humans and they're going to stuff up and they're going to do things like run red lights, fall asleep, and those sorts of things. So how do you manage the energy around that? We had another quiz in there, but I think we're going to move forward, Max, unless it's there.
I think we might be running out of time for this session, so I might just pop on forward if that's all right, Ben.
Good call. Okay. What's a road safety audit not? It's not another name for inside inspection, a quick check of a design or existing road, another name for a black spot investigation, or a substitute for a black spot investigation. It's not an opportunity to do big redesigns of the project, especially, well, you know, I do see road designers come in as auditors and then they start to redesign the project. I know you're just providing advice on that's a risk and here's some ideas. It's not a check against standards, not a way to prioritize or rank project options. So if you're given 3 project options and they say, can you audit these and tell us which is the best and not the best? You say, well, no, that's not the role of a road safety audit. I can give you the issues on each of them and recommendations on improvement. A safe system assessment is far better actually at prioritizing and ranking those. You may say, well, I can write you a separate memo just giving you my thoughts on that. It's not a safe system assessment and it's not a safety and design check. And a road safety auditor is a problem finder. Solving the problem is added bonus. What I do find is a lot of auditors, because they're often, you know, engineers or technical people, and they're just natural problem solvers, right? And they jump from issue to resolution so quickly, like in the blink of an eye. And so what they're actually presenting as their audit finding is actually the solution that they come up with. As an auditor, you really need to focus on defining the issue really clearly and well. Road safety audit, design reviews have to keep happening. There's a bit of overlap in those. Safe system assessment, there's a bit of overlap with audits and safe system assessments and design review, and there's bits and pieces. Safety and design, which is more your check of can it be built safely? Can it be maintained safely? Can it be decommissioned safely? That's another entity in its own right. And so is a DDA compliance audit. That's a different one. I'll talk to you about that in pedestrians. But what can be audited? Well, anything that interacts with the road environment can be audited. And in fact, anything that interacts with a shared path or a cycle path can be audited as well. Big projects, small projects, urban, rural, traffic management schemes, traffic guidance schemes, pedestrians, bicycle projects, existing roads, innovative projects, you name it, it can all be done. And we do encourage audits as that assurance of safety. Now, here's a little one where you say, well, the local government here had a proposal, and their proposal was simply to formalise and seal the unsealed road. So you can see there, sealed road, and that's what they're turning it into. Now, the council here elected not to undertake a road safety audit because they said, well, we're just improving everything. Like it's going to be better. We're formalising the intersection. We're putting curb and channel. We're sealing the road, so that's going to be better. And we're doing it all in accordance with standards. We've got these awesome designers who are doing the design of the upgrades, and we don't need this extra audit going on. We don't, extra time or extra money, small amounts of extra money. So elected not to do it. After this was built, the crashes at this intersection significantly went up, and there was multiple serious injuries, fatality, and it was a good handful in a 3-year period. It really jumped up. Does somebody, without sort of knowing anything about this and not seeing it on the ground, want to predict why or what type of crashes started occurring at this intersection? I'll give a prize for somebody who articulates that. So I suppose the type of crash and why it's occurring is what I'm looking for.
I think we've got some identification early on about this type of crash. Side impact, right angle is certainly what I'd be looking at there, Ken. But if everyone else can articulate why that would be happening as well. So 2 parts to Ken's question there.
Yeah, so side impact is correct. We're seeing side impact crashes. Now, why are we seeing this that's jumped up after that work's been done?
Sean is suggesting increased speed, as is Jamie, high speed as well. There's answers coming through now. Struggling to keep up. Anchor is saying side impact crash due to low visibility of vehicles coming from the side roads. Amanda stating that the vehicles travelling through on the side road are hit by vehicles travelling through on the main road. There are no indicators to slow down or stop.
I think
priority is... Sorry?
I think we'll give Amanda a prize for that one.
Amanda a prize, no problem. And I've got another one here from Paul stating the priority is unclear and see-through as well. The see-through effect, which I think Paul's mentioned before today. He's looking out for the see-through effects.
He's got a shortcut key for see-through effect. I think you just popping that in every time.
When in doubt.
He's right again. I mean, very hard for you to be able to do this looking at an aerial image. And in fact, I've got some on-ground photos. Now, Amanda had the same sort of idea and the speeds factoring into it and the like. But this is the new bit of road there. Forget about the burnout marks. But, this is the new bit. You can see the curve and channel there. The old road bits on the other side there. But let's have a look at it from that. You can see that it's a real see-through effect continuation here. And we can see the power pole, the run of power poles. We can see you've got a line of trees. It lines up perfectly, center line to center line. Everything is just drawing you in to mistaking this. It's got 2 stop signs now, one on each side. So they've up the stop signs. But if you had got in there as a road safety auditor, when they were back, all the way back here, and it was a design, it was on paper, and you managed to say, well, actually, I'm worried a little bit here because driving along here, it's actually quite clear that it's something very different here. I mean, this is a different color. It's obvious things end, right? When they seal it, I'm worried. It now creates this sort of continuing pavement and everything bad from that sense. Now, it's not to say there wasn't potential see-through beforehand, but it was just, I think, that very different road texture and road look and feel makes it less likely. This just enhances it. What do you think you could recommend in the design to lessen the chance of a see-through crash?
Oh, Jamie's off to the races with an offset intersection. Michael, medians. Anchor, removal of roadside objects obstructing the visibility of vehicles from the intersecting road. Right. Some good recommendations there, all of them feasible.
Yeah. So I'm seeing a few.
I like that Amanda has gone additional advance warning and just confirmed that's a supporting treatment with in brackets S, and that's very well written and exactly what we would do in an audit report as well, Amanda. Well done.
Yeah, well done. So a few things I like there, and a few other ideas seem coming in, and so that's good. Give eagle-eyed Michael a prize as well here. And I never say this, and I see if anybody picks it up, because I think it's not the biggest issue, but they've actually got stop signs with give way hold lines. I don't think it's a regulatory issue. I don't think it's a big cause of crashes, but it's always interesting to see if somebody's got that eagle eye going. You can see the dashed line there. Really love the ideas of breaking up the see-throughs with an offset intersection. So some people were saying, so that would be to offset that there. So staggered T, we'd call it, offset. So that's a really good one, because it's very hard to have a see-through effect when you're looking at not the road that continues to see through. Things like a splitter island in the middle are very effective in sort of the psyche of a driver approaching. It's amazing. Just that presence of the splitter island in the middle there gives real clarity that they don't have the continued prioritization. You can also put your sign on it to give even more reinforcement. I love the idea of a roundabout in there, and I would encourage auditors not to shy away from larger ticket items like a roundabout, because it may be feasible. We don't know if they've got the funds to do it. Maybe they do. Maybe they can reassess it. Maybe they're playing with those ideas. And if we could get that in, that's just a wonderful treatment. It will slow vehicles on all approaches, and everybody's a winner out of that. But I would suggest if you're going to put that, you put a few other treatments in case they can't afford that and they can't do it. So they're really good ones. We've got lots of advanced warning rumble strips and those sorts of things as options, and I think they're all good. They're all great supporting treatments. Really, the roundabout is your primary treatment, is a primary treatment at this location. Even your staggered T. Now, this is probably a good example. So if you offset this, you can offset the other road a bit as well, or whatever you do, you actually have not eliminated the potential for fatal and serious injury right angle crashes, because the speed of these vehicles is still the same. So it is technically a supporting treatment. It's a very good supporting treatment, but it is still technically a supporting treatment because you haven't done anything to alter the severity of that crash from the bullet vehicle being this one. Okay, we've got 10 minutes to go, and I just want to take you through different types of road safety audits. I'm going to be quite quick here, and I'll come back to this. But these are road safety audit types. You might be asked to do a design road safety audit, an existing conditions road safety audit. The types here are feasibility, preliminary, detailed, roadworks, pre-opening, post-opening, and existing roads or thematic road safety audits. And you can see before construction, during construction, after construction, and you can see those. The feasibility audit. This is what I call it sometimes the plan, like the planning audit. It's so early on. They don't have any details for you, but they're usually only done on sort of your big picture, like a town bypass like this one, and you're thinking, your audit starts to think, oh, well, how does this population now get down to here? And, is this interchange the right form? And, how are they going to tie in back here? Big picture questions. You might get a little more meat on the bone still in that feasibility, but they're saying signalized here and then U-turn, and you'd be saying, well, okay, they're blocking that off. Okay, you're going to U-turn here. How are people coming out of here? Asking big picture questions. When you're into that preliminary or sometimes concept design stage audits, you've got more meat on the bone now. And it might be on an aerial image, it might be on a survey base, and you're getting some details in here. You're getting ideas of, the lanes. You might get some measurements. and the like, some radiuses and a bit more meat on the bone. Then you go to your full detailed design, and this is big. This is where you get 500 pages of A3 sometimes, and it's got long sections, cross sections, and the works. Now, if you're not somebody who deals with this sort of stuff on a day-to-day basis, you make sure you're in a team with people that do, because you've got to be able to see that and pick road safety issues out of it. And you get the pavement, you get the signs and lines, you get the drainage, you get the, signal phasing, you get the lot. I'm going to jump past a few of these things because I need Max to have a bit of time. Roadworks, construction sites. So you might get the guidance scheme, you might get the traffic management plan as well, and you're reviewing that for issues. Pre-opening is just before they cut the ribbon. You're checking, did they get the right colored RRPMs in the right spot? Is the barrier overlap right? They use the right terminals, all sorts of different bits and pieces. Quick one here. You've been asked to do a post-opening audit. Just open this roundabout. Any issues that anybody can see? First one can win a prize.
Michael saying through arrows in the right lane.
Yes.
Amanda, no left turn lane.
Yes. I think Michael was, it's not quite right. I mean, it's right. Let's give it to Raja there. I think there's a few people on the right track. Yes, there we go. Jamie's clarified it there. So yeah, the idea was right. Like from this lane, you can go straight. And from this lane, you can turn right. And we've got forced conflict. So this one's just been, the stencil's down the wrong way. Whoever line marked that, put the stencil down the wrong way. And we've got a forced conflict. So that's the kind of stuff you pick up in that final check. Existing conditions, existing roads. I'll talk to you about some of the dangers of doing existing conditions audits at one point, but it can be done on existing road network, existing features. And thematic audits. That is a cycling audit. Look at our wonderful cycling auditor there.
Who's that?
That's you. You can do a walking pedestrian audit. You can do a motorcycle audit. You basically get on that vehicle and you walk the ride or the network. And I'll talk to you when we get to each of these road users in how you do it.
That was when I was allowed out of the house, Ken. Those were good days.
Right. Now, Max, there is an assignment now. And what we're going to do is give everybody in this group a random topic. And they have to do a little bit of research on it. And they have to then create a fact sheet, a little video, a cartoon, a podcast, whatever they want, any form they want, to tell us about this issue or device and how it influences road safety. And you might think about it as a road safety audit. Now, I don't want people to spend days on this. It can be done relatively quickly. It could be a fact sheet, bit of Googling, bit of grabbing of information, putting it together. But if you want to go a little bit further, we're going to give prizes for the most creative way of presenting information, the most technically sound, and the most engaging. All right, so it's over to you to decide how you do it. But we just want to ensure that you've had a look into this issue, a little bit of a look into it. You've found a bit of information, you've put it together, and we will be sharing these with the group because we've got 31 sort of different topics, which we don't have time to cover, but you'll be able to go in and see what others did. So over to you, Max, to go through these exciting topics and give them to people. Now I'll stop sharing.
I think I can just take control. So I'm going to share my screen number 2. Has that come up with the Excel document there, Ken?
Yes, I can see it.
Fabulous. So we'll see in this column here, everyone's names, and in column J is topics. And what we actually have here is like a lottery draw. So I'll just count down from 5, 4. We can see those just spinning around. 3, 2, 1. All right, there we go. That's what everyone's assigned topic will be. So if you can quickly see your name in there, you can have I guess, a head start of which topic you'll be researching. However, I will just copy and paste this and upload it onto Moodle by the close of business today. So you can also reference that if you don't have the capability to read that just yet. So that's the assigned topic that you will receive as part of this first assignment.
That's awesome. Lots of exciting topics in there. Danish offsets, visual obstruction. Somebody got a little bit of a hint on that from the topics. So however you want to do it, if you're really struggling to find information about this, we don't need essays, excessive stuff, just a few insights. If you're struggling, get in contact with Max or myself. We'll point you at some resources. If it's something, it may be something that's not termed that in your jurisdiction. I think most of them are generic enough terms, but if you're Googling it and you can't find anything and you're like, I don't understand what this is, get in contact with us. Don't spend 2 days, trying to look for stuff. Get in contact with us. Pop something together. Be free to be entertaining if you want. We love a bit of that. But put it together and then you upload it to Moodle, don't you, Max?
That's it. And I will show you that Moodle platform. For those that haven't accessed it yet, this is what it looks like. Hopefully everyone has got your login details. If you haven't, please do get in touch, because all of the assignments and quizzes are located on here. I did get a question earlier about before where we house the resources and content as well. So that is all shared within this platform. So please reference this as to get all that information. So we've got pre-course content. There's a nice little video in there about the SAFE system, which is worth watching if those haven't already done. Reference documents and resources, as well as course information. That's things like the agenda and the like. Module 1 videos. There is an example of what one of the assignments looks like. And I will just click on this. So this is just an example research assignment. We're not saying that you have to do exactly what that research assignment was, but it's just an example of what we have previously had submitted. So feel free to watch that just for some inspiration. You'll also see there's a module 1 quiz that is required as part of this course. So we ask those that, to get involved in that as soon as possible. And if you are having any issues with it, please let Ken or myself know and we'll be able to work you through that. And then the research topic is also this link here. And this is where you'll actually be able to upload the document by just clicking on add submission, and you should be able to upload that. If you do have any technical issues with that, it might be saying there's a file issue or anything like that, just let me know and I'll sort that out for you. But that's where everything should be uploaded. And I will also upload at the end of today the webinar, which has been recorded. So if you did happen to miss a certain part of today's session, you're able to just look through the video and find what you missed out on. Ken.
That's it, Max. Do your quiz, get your assignment done. We'll send you out your topic if you missed it, and get in contact if you need to. We've ticked over the hour. Awesome group. I'm enjoying it already. If you log in a little bit early to the next session, your chance to win a prize, because we do a bit of trivia, warm-up trivia. So log in 3 minutes early for a chance to win a prize.
We'll see you then. See you at the next session, guys.
We have a hand up there. I'm not sure if that's somebody to talk. We'll get in contact with you because we've gone over time.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks,
have a
everyone.
good day. Bye.
Bye.